How to value different ways of thinking. My name is Troy. Welcome to Applying Principles. So I wanted to talk a little bit about different ways of thinking. And it's kind of like having a tool chest. Each tool does a different job. One tool can do the job of another tool, but it kind of has to be adapted. Sometimes it takes more effort. So, there's different ways to discern truth. The way science derives truth is not the same way that a historian derives truth, which is not the same way a philosopher derives truth. It's not the same way that a mystic derives truth. And I'm not to say that each one of these is better than anyone, but one will be better than another one depending on what you're trying to do. Now, it's recognizing where each one of these is strong and where they're weak, and how each one can bridge the gap of another one. We really have to start valuing different ways of thinking, because different priority sets allow people to evaluate things differently. It's not that people are smarter or stupider, it has to do with different perspectives and what has served for that individual person. All knowledge is connected. When you find truth and you find data that actually is meaningful and represents reality, it means more than just one thing at one time, because you can take that data and interpret it in so many different ways. You can take a story and interact with it in so many different ways and pull so much meaning from it, even in ways that weren't intended traditionally or originally when it was written. Now, this is the power of story, because stories, good stories anyway, they use archetypes, and they tap into, even if they're new archetypes, they're tapping into real elements of what it is to be human or be conscious, and look at those elements of who we are and how we become who we are. And we really like stories because we like to project ourselves in the story, and we like to see who we can relate to and who we can't relate to. And those usually we can usually relate to the protagonist and not the antagonist. And that's usually how they write a story. We like to see ourselves in the protagonist. We like to see ourselves as the good person. And these are very useful. But at the same time, is we also have to see our dark selves. We have to know our shadow selves. The dark ways of thinking and the dark ways that are darker natures, they're still there, and we have to learn about them. And stories are a very good way to learn about our darkness, and we can see which of these darkness in those stories resonate with us, so we know which ones in ourselves that we have to deal with. Experience is the only thing that teaches. We can experience a lot of things remotely. We can experience things through other people's pains, through empathy, and through video and dialogue and such like that. So we can learn from other people's mistakes, but we still experience those in a personal way that it's actually meaningful to us, and that's the only way that we learn. So we have to experience something in order for us to learn. And so if people haven't had the necessary experiences in their life, they don't necessarily understand things in the same way that other people do. And the important thing in all of this is recognizing there's different ways of learning, and one isn't necessarily better than the other one, but one can derive truth better depending on the situation that you're talking about. Now, we want to bring about trying to communicate these different ways of thinking into a medium that everybody can interact with, or at least the person that you're talking to can interact with. And one of the most important things is in the pursuit of knowledge is sharing our knowledge, that which we know, and being open to being wrong as we're sharing it, because it's the only way that we're going to be able to further pursue what we know. Because pseudoscience is something that is pseudoscience. It doesn't have the data to back it up. But pseudoscience is one of those things that can use perceptions that haven't been yet verified by science and moved into a realm where we can actually start to set up experiments to properly test their validity or not, instead of just dismissing them outright. Now, I encourage people not to specialize. Specialize if that's your career and that's what you love to do. But otherwise, most people are generalists. You want to be a jack of all trades or a jack of many trades. And you want to be able to weave those tools together to make something that's more meaningful than just having a tool chest. You want to be a carpenter, you want to be a plumber, you want to be some specialist of those tools to be able to do more jobs than just some basic tools. So that requires just not a lot, but it requires a bit of science, a bit of history, a bit of these other things, and opening up to learning these disciplines from people. And if you don't have the access to go to a college or whatever, then you don't need to. You can go online, and there's lots of stuff on there. But do your due diligence and learn from many people and learn different perspectives on the same subject so that you can make up your own mind. And please don't just listen to one perspective. Listen to multiple perspectives so that you can be properly informed of all of the different viewpoints out there, so you can hear if they make sense to you or not. Because I've totally heard stuff and I was like, bullshit. And then years later I was like, oh shit, that's starting to make sense. That idea I heard, a couple years ago starts to make a lot more sense now. So being open to ideas and not being attached to them means that they can help influence your decision making years down the line, even though you don't value the things that you learned now. And that's really the value of learning and blending together these different disciplines. I hope you've learned something today. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day.